Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, and we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Of course, your guys, Cody and Derek, back with it, guys. Hey, guys, we are under 3 weeks now from the NFL draft, which is crazy. Derek, it's kind of snuck up on us, honestly. Now we're officially in draft month, man. I'm so excited for what this year is going to hold for the Indianapolis Colts. And we had a lot of news early on in free agency, and then it's kind of been dead the last couple weeks. So really very much, man, looking forward to actually seeing some answers to some of these questions. And I know specifically, Derek, when looking at the Indianapolis Colts, talking about that 14th overall pick for them, right? There's a lot of directions the Indianapolis Colts can go here. Now, the Colts did do themselves some favors in what they did in free agency, primarily from a defensive back standpoint with the signings of both Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward. So you think potentially it takes that need a little bit further down or potentially off the list entirely. But when you look at pick 14, Derek, there's a lot of ways that this can go for the Indianapolis Colts, the 13 picks ahead of them. And I think it kind of leads to, obviously, a lot's going to change between now and the next couple weeks when the NFL draft does get underway. But when looking for the Indianapolis Colts, what would we say in our mind would make the perfect scenario for the Indianapolis Colts, right? We've talked about this in the past, back in 2023 when it came to the quarterback situation. What would that look like? Talked about last year. And obviously from the Colts standpoint, when looking at the defensive players, they had their choice of any defensive player they wanted in the draft. They got basically the first overall pick last year because all those offensive players went before them. But now when you sit here for the Indianapolis Colts, there are some players here that a lot of people have talked about that would be really good fits here at pick number 14. But when you kind of view this and look at this position, what do you look at from the 13 teams ahead of Indianapolis, and what do you think needs to happen for it to be a really good, if not perfect, scenario for the Colts come round one Thursday night?
Well, I mean, it really all comes down to who the Indianapolis Colts have on their big board at 14. How many players are they willing to, jump the gun right there at 14 to take if they're there, right? So that's the first point. And, Cody, I think if you ask the majority of Colts Nation what their perfect scenario would be, is to get Tyler Warren at 14. And you know what? I don't disagree. I don't disagree that if you were to somehow get Tyler Warren to fall to 14 and you had the chance to get the number one tight end off the board, no doubt that would be a slam dunk pick. I know a lot of people will say that the tight end position, it's not worth taking that early. I beg to differ. I think that as long as you're getting a really good player in the first round, typically it does not matter what position they are, as long as that person adds tremendous value to your team. And no doubt the Indianapolis Colts need better talent at that tight end room. I would also point to a scenario in which I could see the Indianapolis Colts trying to acquire more picks. Let's just say, God forbid, Cody, Tyler Warren is gone before you get up to him. Say he gets taken in the top 10. Because there are a few teams that could just as likely take Tyler Warren that early. We talked about the Carolina Panthers. We talked about the New York Jets. Those types of teams could jump on Tyler Warren before we ever get the chance to. And then if you're sitting back and you're saying to yourself that you're sitting at 14 and the one guy that you wanted is not going to be there at that point, then another perfect scenario that you could have is being able to trade back a few places. I don't know how many places, but a few places, likely somewhere between the 18th pick and the 22nd pick, somewhere in there, and you can acquire 2 or 3 more draft picks in this scenario. Because, Cody, I know you brought it up in a video idea, which we may do at another time. What if the Colts decide to trade up? Well, the problem is the Colts don't really have a ton of draft picks, Cody. Obviously, they have 7, so they have 1 in each round, but that's usually the bare minimum. And regardless of what we want the Colts to do, Ballard loves them picks. And very rarely does he trade up unless he's giving up 1 pick later on in the draft. So if you were trading up from the Colts scenario, you're not trading up without, giving up a premium pick in return for that. But if you're the Indianapolis Colts and 1 or 2 of your big board guys are not there anymore and you feel comfortable backing up so that you can acquire more picks, I could see that as a scenario for the Indianapolis Colts. They'd never trade out of the first round, but I mean, you could, if 1 or 2 of your guys that you wanted are no longer there, then I see that as a great scenario for the Indianapolis Colts to acquire maybe a second rounder, maybe a third rounder, maybe even another late round pick too. Just accumulating those picks to give you more of a chance to hit a home run in this draft.
Yeah, and there's so many ways, man, that this could go at pick 14. I think when looking specifically, if we would just want to stay at pick 14 for a minute, kind of looking at some of the teams, I think you obviously expect 2 quarterbacks to go. But Derek, I think if you're the Colts, you hope the same scenario that happened a year ago happens again, where some team overvalues a quarterback, say a Jackson Dart, for example. Again, I'm not going to say they're going to go pick him at, what was that, like 10th overall or something like that.
It was
like,
8th overall for Penix last year.
Yeah, whatever that was, like really high, top 10 sort of guy. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if you're able to get a quarterback or somebody like that nobody expected to be in the top 13 that goes a lot earlier because the team is desperate, Derek, that's one thing that I have just over the years, I've come to just kind of expect, like quarterback desperate teams will do desperate things to get those guys, right? If they fall in love with a guy, they're going to move up and they're going to get a guy. It could be even a team that's behind the Indianapolis Colts right now that trades up and goes and gets a quarterback because they, like last year, they don't want the possibility of that player being gone by the time they get there, right? So that's always a scenario I have in the back of my mind. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but we would have never said a year ago Michael Penix is going top 10. Nobody would have said that. So you just never truly know. So I think that's one thing is just like if you're the Colts, you hope for another kind of wrench in there in terms of another quarterback being taken very high, quarterback that some people don't even think is a first rounder maybe, that gets taken really, really, a lot higher than a lot of draft boards have them. So I think that's number one. Also looking at some of the positions for the Indianapolis Colts that they don't necessarily need. When you're looking at it, Derek, that's definitely a thing as well that you're looking for, right? You talk about, potentially, so Ashton Genty, who thinks going to go before the Indianapolis Colts, for example. Some other positions like wide receiver. Could a wide receiver sneak up potentially? Or could a corner like Jahdae Barron, for example, go before the Indianapolis Colts? Like some of those type of picks that the Indianapolis Colts either are pretty good in right now, or yes, it might be a need, but it's definitely not a first round need. Like that would be something that I think would make a lot of sense, right? And so, for example, a team like the Jets, right? We obviously know they have a need at tight end, but what if McMillan is there and they take him, right? Like those sorts of things. I think if you're the Indianapolis Colts, you're hoping happen here if Tyler Warren is like your bona fide number one target in terms of, the guys you want to bring in.
And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, the Indianapolis Colts are very much interested in Tyler Warren. I know he didn't practice. He didn't work out at the combine. He didn't work out at his pro day, but the Indianapolis Colts, they spoke with him both times and are hosting him for a private workout. So believe me, guys, if Tyler Warren is there at 14, I would very much be a betting man and say that the Indianapolis Colts would take Tyler Warren at 14. That sounds like the likely scenario if he's there. As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling against thousands of other players across platforms, you're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball, and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
Right. I just want to throw this in here because like, yeah, Tyler Warren, I think, is the favorite pick, but it is Chris Ballard at the end of the day. So I want to throw that caveat in there of like,
you never
what about
know what's going to happen with that man.
Oh, yeah. And exactly. And so, like, what happens if it's a different position? And we've thrown out a couple positions. I think, to me, like, obviously Tyler Warren is like the popular guy, the guy that I think like, pretty much all of Colts Nation wants at this point at 14 if he's there. But saying that, there's also some positions I think that could make it a very good scenario as well, right? You talk about, some edge guys potentially. I know, like, even corner, even though it's not necessarily a need, if somebody like Will Johnson falls or somebody like that, like a player that's not supposed to be there that falls all the way to 13, is that an also perfect scenario for the Indianapolis Colts if that is something they deem? And obviously the draft boards that people put out versus the Colts board could be completely different. We don't 100% know what the Colts board looks like. But if it's a player at a position that they desperately need, are you going to fault them for taking it, Derek? I don't know. Like, I know tight end's like the big need that everybody talks about, but there's also some other positions that if they take it, I'd understand a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to what they believe is the best case scenario. And I've even seen people suggest the idea the Indianapolis Colts trade back and they get an interior offensive lineman at around the 20-ish area, because there's going to be a couple guys there that could be very valuable at those particular situations, guys with position flexibility. So, I mean, again, like you said, the perfect scenario, that's up for interpretation. That's a lot of different people's suggestions. I mean, I'll tell you what, I think that if you ask the majority of Colts Nation, and I think you and I are both kind of in the same boat with it, that we both would very, very much like Tyler Warren, just because, Tyler Warren is the bona fide tight end #1. And, he's a guy that, could fit seamlessly into Shane Steichen's offense and how they want to run things and all that. But again, there's a lot of other scenarios for sure that if Tyler Warren got taken early, that the Indianapolis Colts could take advantage of. And, if Tyler Warren's not there at 14, I think it would be the best scenario to trade back and, get another good player in the mid round and, acquire some more picks as well.
Unless they've got it set on another guy. Like, if they have another guy, they are like, yes, we want him. Like, do it, man. If you really believe this guy can be a difference maker, do it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, what the fans and our perfect offseason are, or perfect scenario is necessarily, can be completely different. You don't really know. So I think if it's not Tyler Warren and there's another player the Colts are extremely high on, pull the trigger, man. Pull the trigger. So it is a little bit subjective there, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Colts do. I'm just so interested, really, after that Jets pick. Like, that Jets pick will tell everything for, I think, the route the Indianapolis Colts are going to go, or potentially go back. So I'm very intrigued on that. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts here when it comes to some potentially perfect scenarios for the Indianapolis Colts with their first round selection. Again, the Colts, after pick 14, are going to still have 6 more picks, so there's still going to be some more positions they are going to need and they're going to fill as well. But let me know and let us know what your thoughts are on the perfect scenario in your mind for the Indianapolis Colts at that pick. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate this. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. Guys, we are going to be going live again for I don't even know how many straight years now, Derek. I think
we've been doing it since 2020. Since during the lockdown.
I guess that's right.
Yeah.
You did a little bit in 2020.
I did one. I did it by myself in 2020. And then 2021 was the first time where you and I have done it together, and we have done it together since then. So this will end up being the 5th year that you and I would have done it together.
That's crazy, man. It's flying by. Holy smokes.
Yep. And you're closer to me now. No driving for 3 hours to get to me now. All right.
That's true. That's true. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to both be available all that time. We'll have to see on that.
Hoping so.
But yeah, guys, be sure to join us for that whenever we do that. I'm really excited. Once again, it really is like a holiday, man. I just absolutely love it. Like, it's one of my favorite times of the year, just being together, doing content, talking about new Indianapolis Colts. It's a blast. So, guys, be sure to let us know, though, some of your thoughts there when it comes to that 14th overall pick. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.